Hello everybody out there, and welcome back to another episode of Anime Weekly. And this week we're shaking things up a little bit. For those of you on iTunes and SoundCloud, you won't notice this first change, but for those of you watching on YouTube, you're noticing this is an audio only cast this week, and that is due largely to the fact of the second reason, or the second thing you're going to notice this week, and that is that Jeremy unfortunately got hit hard with the allergies. So this week he decided to sit out. Jeremy, if you're listening, I hope you feel better, man. We miss you, and hopefully you'll be back by next episode. I'm sure you'll be back by next episode, and we'll be able to talk about all the new anime that comes out next week, as well as I'm sure Jeremy is going to have a few things he's going to want to say about the shows that I'm going to be discussing in today's episode, which, by the way, this episode is probably going to be quite a bit shorter because, number one, two shows did not come out this week, which are One Piece and Dragon Ball Super again. And also, there's no discussion. I have nobody to bounce things back and forth off of. I don't have, for example, when it comes to Naruto, I don't have the person that can really give me a lot of the history insight with Naruto or Fairy Tail or, One Piece isn't here this week. So, unfortunately, it's going to be more of my overview of the episode, what I thought of it, my likes, my dislikes, if I had any, which I really didn't this week. This week was a very good week, and I'll move on. So, it's going to be a short episode, but I'm going to try to give you guys the best I can on my own. So, let's kickstart with, once again, One Piece and Dragon Ball Super did not come out this week. Now, I didn't see them, so unfortunately, I love how when we finally decided, One Piece looks like it's going to pick up again, it goes on break for a week. Now, I don't know if it went on break in Japan or if we just didn't get it here yet in subtitles, and that's what I was about to say a little bit ago. But I just want to let everybody know we go by what is available, what is put available online. So if it is in Japan and it didn't make it to us, it could be multiple reasons why. But as soon as and I noticed this, and I'm mentioning this because I noticed it with Pokemon, which I will get into a little bit in a moment. But One Piece and Dragon Ball Super did not come out as far as we know this week. So those are episodes that are not going to be discussed. Also, I won't be able to do timestamps for this week's episode, largely due to the fact that I'm doing this on my own. It's audio. I'm recording it differently, so I don't have the timestamp for when I start talking about what episode. So this week, however, we will be talking about, or I will be talking about, Pokemon episode 14 and 15, because 14 and 15 came out one day after the other. So this is why I don't know if maybe it's because, just getting the subtitles takes a while, or websites or internet-wise things are slower. So we got episode 14 and 15 of Pokemon thus far. We've got Garo Season 2, episode number 21, Naruto Shippuuden, episode 452, Divine Gate, episode 10, Assassination Classroom Season 2, episode 10, Dimension W, episode 10, Luck and Logic, episode 10, and then this week I'm going to conclude with Fairy Tail, episode 100, because it's the 100th episode. Yes, I know it's the second time Fairy Tail hit 100, but it's also the final episode of Fairy Tail 0, which, as much as I felt I was prepared for it, I absolutely was not. So let's start the show off with Pokemon episode 14 and 15. These are shows that I feel like I can get through really quickly. Again, both episodes, Ash is still going to the gym, but hasn't gotten there yet. Watching these episodes, I felt like they were, the first episode, episode 14, was all about Z2. Team Rocket, Ash didn't really make much of an appearance in this, like he was in the beginning and he was in the end, but it main focused on Team Rocket versus the Flare, or Gang Rocket versus the Flare Gang. We got to see Giovanni a bit again in this episode, which he's not called Giovanni in Japan, but I'm using the American names because that's how, growing up, that's how I recognize them. And they're talking about Squishy at first, but then Z2 ends up coming into the picture because Team Flare is after Z2. And the episode actually opens up with Squishy communicating with Z2, and Z2's in trouble. And the whole episode is Z2 trying to escape Team Flare, and then Team Rocket finds Z2. They take care of him. They think it's Squishy at first, but they notice the coloration is different because Squishy has a blue diamond and Z2 has a red one. And they take care of him. Team Flare, there's a big fight between Team Rocket and Team Flare. Unfortunately, in the end, Team Rocket fails, and Team Flare ends up getting Z2, and that's due largely to the fact Alan, who is related, and that's the guy from the previous episode, episode 13, that Ash fought with the Charizard. Alan is related to the leader of Team Flare, and he ended up capturing or taking down Z2, allowing them to capture him. And that's the end of episode 14. I thought the action in it was great. Again, this was a team. It shows that James and Jesse, even though that's not their names in the Japanese show, it shows that they are very unique as Team Rocket. While they are very loyal to Team Rocket, they have their own personalities that really I don't understand why they don't try to start their, why they don't break off on their own, especially Jesse, because I feel like his character has a lot, especially in the Japanese version of the show. He has a lot to give. But again, I guess this is the way they're going. With episode 15, that was a Ash centric one. They are passing through a desert, which this scientist felt, there used to be a forest there. This is an episode I started skimming through because I knew it was going to be very filler. And they meet this kid who has this robot and this other Pokemon. And they're trying to restore life to this deserted area. And we find out there's a water spring and it's covered by a rock. Team Rocket attacks and they try to capture Pikachu and Squishy. They fail. Surprise, surprise, they break the rock finally, and now the desert is able to grow into a forest again in time. I thought it was a nice episode, but again, this was definitely the weaker of the two episodes, episode 14 and 15, that I feel. I enjoyed episode 14 a lot more. I did less skimming around. This episode, I really didn't. It was an okay episode. I'm not saying it was a bad episode, but again, Pokemon, I believe, is for a younger audience because this is how they get kids to want to buy the cards and, get into the series. And it's very different from the manga. This is one of the few animes I know that the anime goes one way and the manga goes another. I enjoy the story in the manga. I am actually knee-deep in, I believe I'm in volume 3, which follows red and blue and green. And then when we go into other regions, we follow different trainers for a bit. And I really enjoy the manga. I really wish that we didn't just get one set of 4 episodes for Pokemon Origin. I really do wish they would have followed Red. I really wish we could have gotten the manga, which is so deep in already. I'm talking they have at least 40, 50 books already. I would have loved to have seen the manga translated into anime as well as keeping Ash. Now, I'm not saying, stop Pokemon, start it over with Red. But I would have liked to have had a second anime for Pokemon based off of the actual manga. I feel like it would have been cooler. It would have been more adult. It would have been, not more adult, but it would have been for more mature audiences. And it would have been truer to the actual story. That's just my opinion. I mean, I know a lot of people enjoyed those 4 or 5 episodes from Pokemon Origin. I wouldn't have been against having 2 Pokemon shows. So that this way the show has to take a break at some point. They could have done one show, taken a break to do the other show, and then gone back. I think that it would be cool if they eventually decided to go with the manga stories as well. But again, that's up to the people who do Pokemon. That's up to VidBiz, Funimation, and everybody else who's behind Pokemon. But I would love to see the manga done into an anime at some point. But right now, Ash is like the figurehead for their anime, so I don't know how people would take that. So I'll leave it at that. Garo Season 2, Episode 21. I was going to talk with Jeremy about this as well. As much as this is a really cool series, and I enjoy the action, now they're looking for Semi, and Raikou wants to save her. and he actually ends up fighting the other Makai Knight, and he wins the fight against him, and basically winning the fight means that he's not going to attack Semi anymore, because in the beginning of the episode he actually was looking to kill her, and Raikou got in the way and said, no, that's not what you're going. We can save her. I felt I really wasn't as invested as I am in all these other animes. This show is the one show. I mean, when I talk about Pokemon, I know it's more of a younger audience target. So when I watch that, I watch it with a little grain of salt, knowing that I'm probably going to skim around the episodes, and that I'm really watching it just to have, to mention Pokemon, because it's, nostalgia. It's something I watched when I was a kid. With Garo, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it as much. I mean, it's episode 21, so it should be ending soon-ish, but I don't know. I might end up either, I'll tough it out till the end, but it's not, maybe if I had been watching it since season 1, I'd be more invested, but to be honest, Garo just isn't doing anything for me. I didn't really feel upset at the fact that I ended up skimming around most of this last episode, this current episode, because I really just didn't feel invested in the story anymore, and really at this point I'm just pushing to that season finale or the series finale. So in the end, there's another plan going into effect that I believe they're the Watchdogs, are planning to take Semi down. And Raikou still believes he could save her, and the other Makai Knight refuses to kill her and tells the Watchdogs that and walks away. So take this series for what it's worth. If you are watching Garo and enjoying it, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Personally, I'm not invested, and that could be due again to the fact that A, I didn't watch season 2, and B, we did like a 15 episode jump ahead, because we had started Anime Weekly when Garo was already in, I believe, episode 12. So we, I believe, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, we decided just to jump all the way, 15 episodes later. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we only jumped about 10, 11 episodes. But anyway, we jumped a fair amount of episodes forward. And I think that really did take away from the season for us. And I think that's another reason why we dropped Mobile Suit Gundam, was because we jumped so far ahead. But there was also a lot of talking heads with Mobile Suit Gundam. With Garo, I feel like there are talking heads as well, but I feel like I would have been more invested if I would have known, what happened to, Semi's disappearance, her possession, stuff like that. It didn't, because I missed all that, it took away, for me, it took away from the anime. So now we're going into Naruto Shippuden episode 452. Man, now I understand why Jeremy was really excited for Itachi's story, because I really enjoyed this episode. The Nine-Tail Fox ends up attacking the Leaf Village. This takes place around that time. I love how the anime jumped into kind of like a comic book or American cartoon format for a bit when they showed the Nine-Tail Fox attacking the city. Itachi has his baby brother, and he's running to safety. The father, very coldly, when he makes it to the father, finally says, I knew you would make it, I knew you'd be okay. And, the whole ordeal with the Nine-Tail Fox happens, and that's when, afterwards, when they finally stop the Nine-Tail Fox, they start rearranging the Hidden Leaf Village, and they move the police force all the way away from the center of the village, all the way to like the corner. And you can see Itachi's father is not happy with that at all, but he takes it in the end. They take it, they move, and we also finally see Itachi growing up, and we see that he is excelled in the academy. He's there for 1 year, and he's already got his jutsu down. He's excelling in everything. He's even able to do his shadow jutsu, which that's how you graduate basically from the academy. And there are these bullies that are in an upper class from him, and before that, there are these classmates of his that they can't stand him because all the girls love him because he's got all this talent. He's like one of the top rated students in the class. He's got skills out there. This reminds me of when his younger brother Sasuke later on would be in the academy, and all the girls would fawn after him. This is kind of the same thing with Itachi, and there's that one girl that really likes him a lot as well that we see in this episode. So the guys in the class get jealous and they try to fight Itachi, and Itachi takes them down. And then they bump the kids running after Itachi, end up bumping into an upper classmate or upper class student, and he threatens to beat them up. They run behind Itachi, and he says, "Are you with them?" And Itachi takes him out. And then later on, we find out that Itachi's skipping school by using shadow jutsu. So basically, his shadow clone is in school while he's out of school, and he feels like he's learned everything and it's boring for him. And the bully ends up coming back with all of his friends, and he goes to fight Itachi, and the shadow clone disappears. And one of the teachers notices this, and he's like, wow, he's mastered everything. So in the end, Itachi basically graduates out of the academy, and he's already now being given missions. And he's in the class where he gets the bandana. And that's kind of where the episode ends. I really like his character. I like how he's mastered everything. Literally, he is a really interesting character. And it's really interesting, especially knowing what happens to his character. I'm really interested in seeing where this story goes. This kind of makes me think of Fairy Tail Zero in a way, because it's kind of like, well, here's the origin of Sasuke's brother, and we're getting all the backstory on, what will eventually happen with Itachi's father, what will happen with Itachi himself, and what happens with Sasuke, which I'm really interested in as well. So I love this episode. This week, other than Garo and Pokemon episode 15, this is an excellent, excellent week. I enjoyed every single episode. For example, moving into Divine Gate, last week was a very interesting and weird week when it came to Divine Gate. This week, Otto, I forgot the girl's name again, and I forgot the other guy's name, but the three of them end up meeting with the real versions of the father, the friend, and finally the shadow little boy that's with Otto. I know I'm probably saying it wrong, but anyway, he's already at the Divine Gate, Otto, because he's already felt despair enough that he has the key. So what Loki is doing now is making the other two feel despair in order for them to be able to get to the gate. And he wants them to get to the gate so they could open it, and then Loki will be able to do what he wanted. So how is he going to do despair for these other two? Easy. First, he sends the Scandinavian gods after the other two, because Alto's already there, and we find out that their leaders, the three girls, end up coming back, and the Alto's girl, or the leader of the water, ends up saying, I've always seen this little boy. So it's not really only in Alto's mind, which is very interesting, because now I'm kind of questioning where this little boy is from, and I'm questioning if it's connected to Loki in a way. But now, I forgot what the boy's name was, but he finally sees the father. The real father shows up, and the father actually is trying to encourage him not to chase after the Divine Gate, that the Divine Gate shouldn't be destroyed. He doesn't believe it. They have a bit of a fight, and then a Scandinavian god shows up, and long story short, ends up killing the father, which is the despair that the boy feels. Going back to the other one, the girl, she meets up with her best friend, and remember, in the last episode, they were tricked into believing that these were the real people. And they believe they're being tricked again, that they're being faked out again. And she doesn't believe it's her best friend, but then her best friend pulls out the key, the cell phone with the charms. And unlike the faker, this girl says, I found friends, I changed my name is Dorothy now, and we all know that she joined up with Oz. And she's like, I just want you to be happy, don't worry about me anymore, I'm happy. It's like what you said, it's heavy. but I'm happy. And basically she tells her, don't worry about me anymore. Go on with your life and know that I'm happy and I want you to be happy. And then again, a Scandinavian god attacks. She runs away and tells her best friend just to stay away. And in the end, unfortunately, her best friend sacrifices herself to save her. And she dies. And now the other girl feels despair. And she gets the key to the Divine Gate. But Oz finds out what happens to Elena or Dorothy. And now he's pissed off because he knows that Loki's involved. So basically Loki's plan is starting to come to fruition, so to speak. And then you get Santa, which I don't think that's really the god's name, but he's going by that, and he has a bat with Christmas lights around it, so I'm going to call him Santa. And you've got him. It turns out that Arthur hid something, a piece of his heart somewhere, or I don't know if it's a literal case or if it's like a figure of speech kind of deal. But Santa finds it and he disappears because the Scandinavian god tries to fight him and he just runs away. I like Santa's character. I really hope we get to see more of that. But now the three of them are able to get to the Divine Gate. And Alto's at the gate, literally at the gate door, and it opens. And what he sees when that gate opens is his brother. And that's how the episode ends. Talk about a horrible cliffhanger. This was a horrible cliffhanger because now I'm at the edge of my seat wondering what's going to happen next. I love this episode. This episode, the action picked up. And I believe that Divine Gate's going to be a one and done series, and that's kind of why we're going to be seeing it in America soon. Dimension W, I hope, is the opposite, but we're not going to Dimension W yet. Now we're going to Assassination Classroom Season 2, Episode 10. This was just another episode where Koro-sensei gives the class a really awesome lesson. There's a festival that's going to be going on, and all the classes are getting involved. And, there's first place, second place, third place to who makes the best sales at the festival. And, of course, A class wants to beat, E class. And E class doesn't want A class to best them. And you've got that leader of the A class that wants to make sure that they win. So they'll pull out, he's pulling out all the stops. He's bringing in pop stars, and he has a big stage, and he brings in comedians who are working basically for free, and the tickets are like 500 yen to get in. And E-Class decides they live on, their class is in the mountains. So they're going to make a mountain restaurant using all of the stuff around them, and their best dish is like an acorn ramen, which actually sounds very good. Watching this episode made me want ramen. And thinking back to it now, I actually would love to have a cup of, a thing of ramen. Unfortunately, when you're doing an audio video, having a break to eat or drink, it's like radio silence. So I can't do that this episode, but it definitely makes me want to have ramen after watching this episode. So they're doing okay, and the sales are doing good, but they're not going to make it. And then this guy that thought, his name was with me and then left. The boy that looks like a girl, he actually thought he was a girl, and he's rich, shows up because he finds out that the class, he sees the guest list and he sees that the guy's name is there. He runs there to see her again because he's in love, apparently, with the boy, and he doesn't know he's a boy. And they want him to kind of charm the rich boy into paying for everything so that they make enough money. And I love how in the end he reveals that he's a boy. And he's like, I didn't want to hurt you. And he gives this real good lesson to this kid. And you got to watch the episode to understand where this rich kid's coming from. But in the end, we find out that he's a food critic. And he writes a blog about the restaurant. And all of a sudden, millions of people flock to this restaurant. News crews flock to the E-Class's restaurant. And what happens is they're going to beat the A-Class, but they're really depleting the resources of the forest and the mountain. So Koro-sensei says, no, we proved that we could do it, but we can't disturb the balance of nature just so that we can win the contest. We proved that we can do it. And he basically says, let's let A-Class win. So A-Class does win. They win first and second place. But E-Class came in third. And they got the most exposure. And now people are talking about E-Class. Like, oh, I thought that it was hell being in the E-Class. But now it actually looks interesting. So even though the head student actually won, he's still angry because he won, but he lost at the same time. And I thought that was a really, that was the lesson for the episode. And I loved it. And we got a little bit of a flashback, and I'm waiting to get to the episode where we get Koro Sensei's backstory, because I've read it, and now I would love to see it. And I'm sure we're getting to that point where we will see it. Also, the mother shows up again in this episode for the student, and I like how they tied this episode in with the last episode, and she says, I understand now why you want to be a part of the E-Class, and I'm okay with you being here, but promise me you'll stay with me until you're of age. And he says, of course I'll stay with you, definitely. And I thought that was a very warm moment as well. I like Assassination Classroom because while the premise is these students are there to assassinate their teacher, he's teaching them life lessons that they will definitely be, bringing with them for the rest of their lives. Of course, if Koro Sensei is killed, which we all know that's going to happen, or something in that fashion is going to happen. But I like how he's using the time that he has with the students to teach them, and you're getting lessons as viewers. We're seeing a lot of the lessons they're learning as well, and it's a very warm anime. And if you can get past a lot of the assassination part, I would definitely say this is an anime this is one of my top 5, as always, animes. Divine Gate being number 5. This is definitely my number 4. My top 3 fluctuates a lot, but these are, when people ask me what animes I recommend, I always go Divine Gate, Assassination Classroom, Dimension W, Luck and Logic, Fairy Tail. Now, Divine Gate, like I said, it's probably going to be a finite series. Dimension W, episode 10, which we're going into now, I feel like it could be a Cowboy Bebop and be like a one and done. Like they'll do like 20, 25 episodes and just end the series. But there's potential, not saying that they will do it, but there's potential for this to actually go on for a while. But the way they're writing it and the way I'm seeing it is that there is an end game for Dimension W, and if they do reach that end game, this series will end, and it involves the coils, and probably in the end the coils being completely either dismantled or at least the numbers being destroyed. So I mean, could Dimension W be a finite series? Probably, especially if they're already dubbing it in America. And in Japan we're at episode 10. I believe here in America we're only in episode 3, because while in Japan they kind of went ahead of themselves, we allowed them to go further along. I'm sure that we both have the same amount of episodes, but we're just putting them out later because obviously it's an anime, so Japan's getting it first. But I feel like it kind of takes away from the American dub, because everybody's going to run to watch the sub version because they're going to want to be all the way at episode 10 already, whereas we're in America only dubbing up to episode 3, or I believe this week was 4. They're already 5-6 episodes ahead of us, and personally, if it was Dragon Ball Z back in the day, I watched GT completely subbed before America even, said that we would be getting GT in America. I already knew everything that happened in GT before it even aired on Cartoon Network. So my thought is if America knew we were going to dub Dimension W, it should have run maybe a week behind, not 5 weeks, because people already know where we're going to be by episode 10 when it comes to the dub version, which is going to take viewership away from the dub. Maybe not, because there are some people that only like watching anime dubbed, and other people might be willing to wait also. So, but this was a really great episode. They're on Easter Island still. We find out that KK is not a collector. He actually was on Easter Island during the Beasts of Grendel attack to stop the mad scientist from, and we find out what Easter Island was about. It was about space travel, but not with rockets, but with through Dimension W. And KK promised somebody who we don't know that no matter what, anyone who would come to the island, he would stop them or kill them. Either way. So we find out that Kyo's memories might have been erased. And there's something... He knew where the key was, and the key is the Omega coil, I believe it's called. The Omega coil, or... It's basically the coil. It's not a number. It's not a regular coil. This thing is like the crown jewel that these scientists made. They attempted to make and made. And Kyo is the only one that knows where it is. But his memories are gone. And the key to finding it is in his memories. And the key is also Dimension W. The connection between Dimension W and reality is through sleep, memories, and through the dead. Because if you die near a void or Dimension W, you're not dead yet until the connection, the coil, is destroyed. So this Omega coil is somewhere on Easter Island, or maybe it's in Kyo. I don't know. I kind of questioned it a bit. Maybe the coil is within him. I'm thinking that. Really, I'm almost sure that the coil is inside of him. But it could be on the island also, and that's why the scientist is still alive, and all of these other things are going on still, because that coil is still active. It's not deactivated yet. So this episode really was more them versus KK, because Kyo wakes up, obviously, towards the beginning of the episode, and you see that his connection with Mira is starting to grow a little bit, because while he still calls her a piece of junk, you can see that he's starting to warm up to her, and obviously because he finds out, because we know now that all the bodies that were made were modeled after his dead girlfriend. And he promised Lou, even though he finds out Lou is a robot, he promises he's always going to protect him. And KK actually destroys him towards the end of the episode. And it sets Kyo off, because he just fought his friend, also who was brought back by KK, through a coil. His soul is gone, but the body is still active. And reluctantly, Kyo fights him and destroys the coil, thinking that it'll save his friend, but in the end, it basically shuts the body down. So Kyo is being pushed to his limits by first seeing his friend, who he thought was dead, die again, and now the little boy he promised that he would, look after and keep safe is dead. So he almost literally kills KK until he finds out, and I love how the episode ends, he finds out that Lou has multiple bodies. So now the whole question is, how is he going to find this Omega coil? And we also find out that Loser is not the only one in search of the numbers. One of the other collectors actually has a number as well. He has coil number 1, and that's how he gets all of his abilities. And he knows what Loser is doing as well. And Loser is one numbers coil away from being able to reach that goal. And this guy is willing to pull out all the stops in order to prevent Loser from getting that last numbers coil. And a huge fight between the two of them breaks out. But because Loser's using all these number coils, it's really depleting his life force, and he needs to rest. But now he's in this gigantic fight, and unfortunately, this is where this could be where Loser kind of meets his end, sort of. Moving into Luck and Logic, this is the episode that we've been waiting for, and again, this is one of the episodes I'm sure that Jeremy's going to definitely want to retouch back on, because Lucifer finally seduces Olga to the point where him and Olga trance, and they become the superior logistic. And now Yoshi is trying to tell Olga, it wasn't you that freed the foreigner. We know that. This isn't you. You're a good person. It's the classic, I know you're a good person. Don't do this. And that person ends up being seduced by the dark side and doing it, at least for a time. And basically, Lucifer convinces Olga that the only way to have true peace is to combine this world with Tetra Heaven with I forgot the name of the other place. But anyway, they end up fighting Olga with in trance together with Lucifer, and they're just superior to every single one of them. Even the chief is unable to stop Olga at this point because he is the smartest logistic, and Lucifer is the strongest God, that there's no way to stop them. And we find out that Lucifer has this church that everybody's all the people that he's trans with, he's seduced a lot of people basically, and they're getting these bootleg like trans jacket cards. And we find out that Olga goes to the prison, he frees all the foreigners, and they trans with a lot of the people in this church. And now basically the whole region is going to hell. And what is Yoshi and his group going to do? Because now they got beat by Olga. They're all pretty beaten up. He's like the superior logistic, and now you've got all these foreigners back, and they're in super high gear. So it's going to be crazy seeing where Luck and Logic goes from this point. I am really enjoying it. The action in this was great. We finally got to see Olga and Lucifer's trans together, and it's a superior trans. He is now the superior being. Now the question is, will they be able to save Olga? Will Olga finally see that this is the way, that he's wrong? Or will Yoshi have to overtrans again with oh god, the name completely left me for the moment. There's a lot of questions on what will they have to do in order to stop now Lucifer's plans to destroy the world. And I'm really involved. Luck and Logic is top 3 for me. I am really enjoying this series. And this doesn't have a manga attached to it, so it could be a finite series, or it could be a series that goes on for a very, very, very long time. And I'm hoping Luck and Logic gets picked up in America, because this is a really great series. I love it. The action's great. The characters have deep, stories to them. And I'm enjoying this series to no end. I'm loving Luck and Logic. And I'm excited. The way it ends is with the world basically falling to hell. And now what is what are they going to do? How are they going to stop all of these foreigners now, plus stop Olga and Lucifer? And will Olga, like I said, come back, to the ALCS, or will they have to completely destroy him and destroy Lucifer? That's the big question. And I'm excited to see where the series goes. Now, we are at the episode of the week for me, and that is Fairy Tail episode 100, the final episode to Fairy Tail Zero, and the origin of Fairy Tail. So, in the last episode, we found out, or Mavis found out that Zera was an illusion, because Yuri admitted to her that him, Precht, and Warred never saw Zera. And now Mavis has to accept that. And, there's a nice beginning between her and Zera, where Zera says, I've always been dead. I was created by you. That's how your powers, your abilities finally came out. And now that I'm going to disappear. And Mavis doesn't want that, but Zera says, it's time for you to let me go. You have real friends now, real people who are friends, and you have a purpose, you can chase after fairies together with them. You could do true good with them. And then, unfortunately, Zera disappears. But Yuri sees her before she dies. And Warren and Precht hear her back in town. So my thing is, I think that the true soul of Zera was still kind of connected to this vision or this illusion that Mavis made. But now that Mavis kind of, she grew, she understood that it was, found out that it was just a vision or a illusion. It finally set Zera free, and as Zera will always be in her heart, as they show in the anime, she's able now to move on, Mavis, with her life and to find a purpose. And we do find out that the purpose is Mavis realizes, hey, we just freed this town, but now they're going to be in trouble. So what do? So Mavis, enlisting Yuri, Warren, and Precht, says, let's create a wizard guild and let's unite all the wizards guilds and, let's protect the people and do the opposite of what the Blue Skulls did. And we find out, and they agree eventually. And that's the origin and beginning of Fairy Tail. And we find out that the leader of the Blue Skull would go on to create another faction, which I'm sure we see in earlier episodes of Fairy Tail, or maybe we will see them in future episodes, or both. But we get the origin of Fairy Tail. They create the guild. The town is more than willing to take them in, as long as they don't cause trouble. And then when the credits roll, we get I loved it. We got a sum up of everything that's gone on before Fairy Tail began and to current day Fairy Tail. We got the whole, the wars that went on, Mavis, her ending up being, her death, Yuri's marriage, his child's birth, his death, Warwood retiring from the guild, what was the other thing? Precht falling to dark magic or black magic, and then where we get to current day, where they won. I forgot what tournament it was, and then we find out that the Fairy Tail, which I didn't know this because I hadn't seen the previous story, where Fairy Tail disbanded, or at least they were on the brink of separation. I cannot say the other word. And now we're going back to present day. And I'm not going to lie, after seeing this, I did read a little bit of the manga to see where we're going from here. And ironically, the Challenger, is actually in the manga as well. I actually just looked ahead, and Zera is definitely coming soon. So obviously Zero was done so that we'd understand the whole Zera thing, and Mavis is going to be playing a role, a huge role later on as well. For anyone who was wondering about Precht, Precht was dealt with already in a previous story arc, so Precht is already kind of gone. So I'm looking forward to where we're going to be going in Fairy Tail. Now that we're back to present day, as you guys know, I already watched the first 6 or 7 episodes of the beginning of Fairy Tail, and I'm hoping to catch up at some point to present day Fairy Tail. But I'm really excited to be going back now to Lucy, and I forgot the guy's name. It's been a while because I've been watching a lot of Zero. But I'm really excited to be back in present day now, where Fairy Tail is going to be moving forward. Now, we got the prequel and the origin of Fairy Tail. Now we're moving forward, and hopefully Fairy Tail will, they won't be disbanded. They'll come back together. I'm sure they'll find, because Mavis at the end of the episode says, we found a way to form Fairy Tail. I'm sure that if their bond is strong, they'll reform. So I'm sure that we might be seeing Fairy Tail reform after a year of being disbanded. I'm really excited to see where the series is going. I love Fairy Tail. I told myself I'd be ready for the feels in this episode, especially with Zera. You're not prepared. Don't even bother saying I'm prepared, because you watch it and you see it happen, and even though you've read it, you still feel when you watch it. And man, this was, if you had to watch any anime from last week, this was the episode to watch, because the feels in this were real. And I truly wasn't ready to feel what I felt when, you know, Zera finally left and Mavis kind of had to cope with Zera leaving. Now, what Jeremy said about her, you know, what's going to happen to Mavis later on, I thought that the anime went a different path, but I found out that it's revealed in a later show or a later episode where they do a flashback. Something else is going to happen to Mavis that I thought would have happened in this episode, but it didn't. It happens later on, and we're going to get a lot more of Mavis's, like what happened with Mavis and the others as time moves forward, as we're going through the Zera story arc. Right now, I believe we're going into a story arc where I believe they're going to be talking about Fairy Tail and what's happened to all the characters in the past year. But I'm really excited to the point where we're going to be getting to Zera finally and where they're going with Zera. And I'm sure anyone who's a fan of Fairy Tail, if you're not reading the manga and you're literally only following the anime, you're in for a treat. Things are going to really get kicked up a notch as time and episodes move forward. I'm excited. I hope they don't take a break. But it feels like if they're going to take a break, it would be now. So we'll see if this week we get episode 101 of Fairy Tail. So that's it for this week's Anime Weekly. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. You know, again, it's always fun to have somebody to talk with about the animes and to remind me about names and to give more of a background. So next week, hopefully Jeremy will be back. And I'll still be putting a link to his channel in the description below. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you're on SoundCloud, then hopefully you guys enjoyed just hearing me. So yeah, that was Anime Weekly for this week. Thank you guys so much. Links in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. Feel free to comment below any of your thoughts on any of the animes I talked about here. And until next time, everybody, take care, keep reading, keep collecting, enjoy watching your favorite anime, and I'll see you guys really soon in the next video. Take care, everybody.